Welcome to TBC News, our top stories. Government toughens on accountability. Parliament's ready to table Media Services Act Amendment Bill. Good evening, I am Faitha Ngaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also, get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter pages at TBC Online. President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan has appointed Ephraim Balozi Mafuru to be Arusha International Conference Center AICC Chief Executive Officer. Before the appointment, Mr. Mafuru was the Kilombero Sugar Company Head of Corporate Affairs. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa has assured the Parliament that the government has put in place an effective system that will evaluate all projects implemented by the government to control the loss or misuse of government funds. He says the system will make it possible to understand in detail any government fund misuse before the CAG report.
Serikali yetu imeandaa mfumo mzuri sana wa kufuatilia sekta zetu kabla CAG haijafika.
The government has prepared a very good system to monitor various sectors before the CAG arrives. The Prime Minister's office has now established a monitoring and evaluation unit in government sectors that identifies the shortcomings, and we have strengthened this unit further, and it has started working now. It is passing through the local government authorities, various government institutions in order to evaluate and advise where there are gaps in the sectors so that we can take actions.
Mr. Majaliwa adds that the government will continue to review and monitor closely the list of products exempted from tax procedure for the interests of Tanzanians. He also urges youth in the country to take advantage of loans facilitated by councils to groups.
We have been taking various places in the country for public projects, and when we find that a Tanzanian has invested, we compensate an individual. The issue of delay is due to procedures, mostly if the criteria are not met. We evaluate and know who is the investor, and if evidences are shown that he is the right owner of the area, he will be photographed, the value of the area will be identified, and he will be told, then preparations are made for compensation.
He reassures that the government is committed to improve coordination with various ministries to ensure the availability of funds meant for young people's economic empowerment. Moving on, Minister of Information, Communication and Information Technology, Nape Nnauye, says the amendment of the Media Services Act of 2016 will be tabled in the Parliament for the first time tomorrow in Dodoma. The minister clarifies that the bill, which was postponed yesterday as announced by Chief Spokesperson Gerson Msigwa, was due to the changes made to a chance for the Universal Insurance Bill.
Tulikuwa na mswada wa sheria ya bima ya afya.
We had a health insurance bill, and today the Speaker has announced that the bill is being progressed. As a government, it is our opportunity to submit our bill.
Now, you insists that government has sincere intention to implement the amendment and asks all stakeholders in the process to trust the government.
Nataka niseme moja, vizuri tuaminiane.
I urge that we trust each other. Secondly, this bill and this law is for all people, including journalists and the citizens. We thank President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan for her political will and to start this process as she is the final decision maker.
Kushukuriwa na kupongezwa kwenye hili, na mwisho wa siku ikishapita, yeye ndio mtu wa mwisho.
The minister outlines that the process may take time due to various processes within the Parliament, including the changes of parliamentary committees. In other news, the number of people who died of Monday's earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria has risen to more than 19,700. The death toll is expected to rise as rescue workers continue with rescuing operations with caution as other people still trapped in the debris. Earlier, our colleague Anna Monsioke spoke with the Tanzanian ambassador to Turkey, retired Lieutenant General Yakub Mohammed, who confirmed that there are no reports of any Tanzanian casualties in the country so far.
We want to know how Tanzanians are safe in the disaster that happened in Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon.
Thank you, TBC. Let me start by saying that all Tanzanians who are living in the affected area are safe and are in safe places which have been arranged by the government. Some of the Tanzanians have elected to move out of these safe centers to other cities which they think they are safe. One of the cities which we have confirmed that Tanzanians have been arriving is Ankara and Istanbul.
So what measures are being taken by the government of Tanzania to make sure that those Tanzanians in all the cities are remaining safe?
We have been able to identify Tanzanians in the 6 cities, but we are yet to establish any communication within the 4 cities which are remaining. But let me assure you that as currently Tanzanians are safe, and we hope even in the 4 cities remaining, we hope that Tanzania will still be safe. We've also gone in far establishing communication with the AFAD, which is an organization that deals with disaster management. And they have assured us that whenever they hear any Tanzanian within the centers which have been established, they will let us know. But what they said is currently they are busy in collecting data, so we should wait. But what I can say that for Tanzanians who are in Tanzania and they have their kids, their relatives living in Turkey, please let them go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation and give details to those their kids or relatives that they haven't established any communication so that follow-up will continue within the embassy.
Now, how is the rescue team doing his activities, considering that there is snow, there is rain right now, and it's very cold?
Yeah, what I can say for the rescuers that the rescue operations is hampered by a number of reasons. First, the bad weather. Let us remember that this is a winter time and the weather is actually not really conducive for people to stay longer outside. That is number one. And number two is the snow is actually snowing very heavily, and this is actually the time for snow. Another problem which we see is the infrastructure. A number of infrastructures has been demolished due to the earthquake. And the other thing which we see as a hindering rescue is that this is the building. The building beside here has collapsed. The other one has not collapsed, but looking at it, it may collapse any time. So those who are doing rescuing, they are also concerned on their safety if this other building collapses. So those are the issues which the rescuers are to deal with.
Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation, TPDC, has signed a cooperation agreement in the areas of gas and oil with the National Oil Company of Mozambique, ENH. This is part of the successful visit by President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan to Mozambique in September last year. Addressing the press after the internal meeting, the Director of Oil and Gas Business, TPDC, Dr. Wellington Hudson, says the cooperation between Tanzania and Mozambique will involve defense issues, exchange of expertise and other areas of development.
Kuna mpaka wa pamoja kati yetu na Mozambique.
There is a border between Tanzania and Mozambique. But in geology, they say this profession has no borders, so you'll find the resources crossing from one border to the other. Therefore, you have not agreed to do research together, nor to exchange data and information. This will lead to failure to develop resources that will cross borders.
On his part, the executive director of ENH, Estavio Rafael, says the cooperation between Tanzania and Mozambique through the energy sector will help exchange experiences for the benefit of Mozambique and Tanzania.
One basins, the Rovuma Basin as well, and we think that there is a lot to learn from each other.
Tanzania and Mozambique are countries endowed with oil and gas energy in their land, where various studies are being carried out to continue to discover this energy for the benefit of these countries. Moving on, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Francis Michael, says the cooperation between the University of Dar es Salaam and Japan through its international agency, JICA, will boost technology and innovation fields. He was opening a two-day forum as part of the organization to celebrate 60 years since it started its operations in Tanzania. Here is a report by Gervas Motabela, read by Lulua Muhammad.
The Japan International Development Agency, JICA, started its activities in this country in 1962 and has supported financially various development projects in the country. Ministry of Education, Science and Technology Permanent Secretary Dr. Francis Michael says that higher education institutions have a responsibility to cooperate with Japanese institutions in exchanging experiences, knowledge and technology.
Japan has shared its innovative experience with several Southeast Asia countries, which some of them have achieved remarkable economic progress. Through this innovation forum, I'm optimistic that Tanzania can use this opportunity to learn the best practices of Japan's modernization and implement them in our local context. On this note, I call upon the higher learning institutions of Tanzania to actively engage in knowledge exchange and sharing with Japanese institutions. There will be a panel discussion, as I'm told, with the theme titled Innovation for National Growth and Sustainable Development today and tomorrow. There will be lectures regarding to innovation as well.
Meanwhile, the Japanese ambassador in Tanzania, Yasushi Misawa, insists that his government will continue to cooperate with Tanzania in various sectors.
The academic exchange between Japan and Tanzania will become more active through inter-university agreements and other means. Today, my colleagues have prepared information, materials on studying in Japan and the Japanese culture. So please free to stop by the information desks in front of the entrance gate.
On the other hand, management team from University of Dar es Salaam and the JICA agency, they have said that cooperation will benefit both parties.
We are very happy to see you here, grace us with your presence during this forum. Indeed, your presence is quite evident that UDISM-Japan cooperation on teaching and learning, research and innovation will continue to grow through JICA program for Japanese studies at the University of Dar es Salaam.
In 2018, JICA introduced a development studies program with the aim of nurturing future leaders of developing countries. The program, which was named JICA Program for Japanese Studies, provides, among others, opportunities of studies at Japanese universities for scholars from developing countries, such as Tanzania, to explore Japan's modernization and development.
The two-day forum has been organized in collaboration between Japan Development Agency, JICA, and University of Dar es Salaam.
Deputy Minister for Works and Transport, Engineer Godfrey Kasekenya, has instructed all the managers of the road agency TANROADS to ensure that all places connected by roads are accessible at all times during the rainy seasons. Opening a two-day meeting organized by the agency in Tabora, Deputy Minister Engineer Kasekenya says that road infrastructure is critical for economic and social development. Here's a report by Dr. Elias, read by Apasia Ringo.
The Deputy Minister for Works and Transport, Engineer Godfrey Kasekenya, gives various instructions to the managers of the Tanzania Road Agency, TANROADS, throughout the country to ensure all places connected by roads are accessible all the time.
Na waendelee kutoa huduma kwa wananchi.
They should continue to provide services to the people, especially during this rainy season. Also, they should ensure that the Procurement Directorate coordinates the procurement of contractors for strategic projects on time, and the construction contracts are signed in the quarter of the year without delay.
Furthermore, he instructs resumption of construction work of all roads that have already undergone feasibility study but had compensation issues.
We have put them in a very difficult situation. They cannot move because they have not been compensated. Also, they cannot develop because they are forced to leave. I think you can come up with ideas on what to do to reduce the ordeal that many citizens are facing currently.
On her side, Tabora Regional Commissioner Ambassador Dr. Batilda Burian has asked the ministry to continue with road repairs at gravel level in the region. We would like to remind you of the road to Kipole Rungwa, which is 172 kilometers, Mambadi Bukene to Itobo, which is 114 kilometers. Not to mention the road to Nzega Kagongwa, which is 66 kilometers. Honorable Minister, the design should be done so that the construction of the road will be done at the asphalt level in the area of Puga Sibachoma, which is 110 kilometers.
Until 1st of February 2023, a total of 16,135.6 kilometers of the road network managed by TANROADS has been marked as road reserve remits.
Now let's take a look at the tourism sector, where the Tanzania Tourist Board, TTB, has begun to boost cultural tourism after initiating training to the service providers of the sector in the southern regions aimed at to ensure that local residents are beneficiaries of the sector. The Southern Highlands Zone TTB officer Hozambura says the move also aims at expanding the scope of tourism by promoting rare cultural tourist attractions found in the Southern Circuit regions. Eileen Makaringa has more details.
The cultural tourism training for the service providers in the Southern Circuit is a continuation of the government's efforts to promote tourism in the area and increase the investments in those regions which are endowed with different attractions such as national parks, lake shores, historical sites, and many cultural attractions. The Southern Highlands Tourism Board official Hozambura admits that cultural tourism is a new product that is growing rapidly in the world right now, which enables tourists to increase the number of days spent in the country.
Despite the wildlife tourism, TTB has been promoting cultural tourism as a new form of tourism. So we have found it is good to build the capacity of cultural tourism businesses so that they can provide good services to tourists when they visit cultural places.
But what exactly is cultural tourism?
In Tanzanian perspective, cultural tourism means the total way of life, the way people interact with the environment. And here tourists are interested in knowing how people live. What do they do every day? How do they participate in their economic activities? Going into the local farms, doing the daily home chores. How do they celebrate when they harvest? And also knowing the history, visiting different historical sites, knowing how life was during the colonial times, post-colonial times, up to today, because culture is evolving and it changes day after day.
How will citizens benefit from cultural tourism?
Make sure that all the cultural tourism enterprises, all the players in southern Tanzania, get a good number of visitors that will enable them to get revenues from the visitors and also to improve their livelihoods, at the same time improve the conservation around the southern Tanzania.
Are the cultural tourism service providers in the southern regions ready for the new package of tourism?
Kuuza bidhaa zetu zaidi na kuweta watu wengine ambao kwa sisi tunaamini kwamba
we believe that cultural tourism is a very good business where we can sell more products for the benefit of our society.
Tuko tunazungumzia ngoma za asili pekee.
We grew up talking about the traditional dances as the only cultural tourism, but through training, we are now going to showcase various things of cultural tourism, including traditional foods.
Cultural tourism, which is more common in the northern circuit tourism, may bring a change of mindset to the people and service providers of the sector in the southern regions who are still not very much aware of the benefits of cultural tourism. Irene Mwakalinga, TBC, Iringa.
And that item concludes local news tonight. International news up next. Now let's have a look at international news with Ahmed Salum.
The death toll from the Turkey-Syria earthquakes has passed 19,000 people. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said at least 16,546 people have died in his country, while in Syria 3,162 have already been killed. The number will continue to rise as more people are still buried under the rubble. Hopes of finding survivors are quickly fading, and residents of southeastern Turkey and northwestern Syria are criticizing what they call slow search and rescue efforts. Yet, amid the freezing cold, rescue workers are still pulling people out alive from the rubble as search operations continue for the fourth day. This is also the first time the UN aid convoy has reached Ribble-held northwest Syria from Turkey. Kenya and Eritrea have reached a decision to abolish visa requirements between the two nations. Kenya's President William Ruto and Eritrea's Isaias Afwerki today held bilateral talks in Nairobi, where they agreed to develop comprehensive plans of cooperation in various sectors, including agriculture, trade and investment, and many other sectors. Addressing the nation, President Ruto said,
to facilitate growth in trade and connectivity between our people and our business, we have agreed to abolish the requirement of visa permanently, effective today. In this regard, we have instructed our ministries of interior to work on the modalities for the ratification of this directive.
To deepen the bilateral relations, Kenya will now open a diplomatic mission representation in Asmara, the capital city of Eritrea. Eritrea becomes the second country to open its borders to Kenyans since President William Ruto assumed office in September last year, after South Africa did so in November last year. 4 miners are trapped in rubble after gold mine collapse in western Kenya. The incident in Kakamega County happened early in the morning today and initially saw 12 artisanal workers trapped for hours. 9 of them were rescued following hours of digging by community members, and they are said to be in stable condition. The miners were operating at an aged mining tunnel and were unlicensed by the local government, according to the authorities. The National Environment Management Authority in Uganda, NEMA, has announced that with effect from April 1st, motorists will be arrested and expressly fined 6 million shillings when caught driving a car without a dustbin in it. NEMA's Executive Director, Mr. Barirega Akwankwasa, said the authority will work with the traffic police to ensure that those driving heed to the environmental regulations. The express penalty scheme introduced by NEMA is intended to deter non-compliance to environment laws and prevent environment degradation. And North Korea has paraded its largest nuclear missiles through the capital Pyongyang during a nighttime ceremony that also appeared to feature what analysts believe is a new solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. Leader Kim Jong-un, accompanied by his family, presided over the parade on Wednesday night to mark the 75th founding anniversary of North Korea's army. The country's official Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, said the parade featured a variety of nuclear-capable weapons, including tactical nuclear missiles and ICBMs, which the state news agency described as crucial in supporting North Korea's power-to-power, all-out confrontation against enemies. KCNA said the parade emphasized North Korea's ability to face down its enemies nuke for nuke, confrontation for confrontation.
That was international news. Sports news up next. In sports news, the lawyer in charge of the case of a Tanzanian football star, Faisal Salum, famously known as Feitoto, says his case against his club will be settled in the country, while football fans are now still waiting for what is going on with the player Faisal Salum and his younger club. The player's lawyer says there is no need to take the case to the Court of Arbitration in Sports, CAC. Instead, he should be called back to the Law and Status Committee of Players.
According to the rules and regulation of Tanzania Football Federation states that if someone not satisfied with the decision made by any committee under federation have the right to appeal in that committee. So we already submitted our appeal to the Legal and Player Status Committee since February 19. So we are waiting for committee call to hear from us and to what decision will be made by the committee after hearing our argument that we analyzed in our appeal. TFF rules and the regulation need someone to appeal in the same committee if he or she was not satisfied with the decision, which is the same to Court of Arbitration in Sports, which needs someone to follow up regulations from their federation before appealing in CAS. So now we are focusing on this appeal, which we are thought it can be finished in this committee very soon.
Feitoto left the younger club following his demand to renegotiate his contract. The Simba and Yanga teams are ready for the Championship Club competition in Africa and the Confederation Cup in Africa competitions. Simba is in Guinea, where this Saturday they will play Horoya team from Guinea for the Championship Club in Africa, and Yanga, which is scheduled to play US Monastir of Tunisia on Sunday. Simba and Yanga are playing in the CAF group stage matches, and both teams have started with away games. In other sports news, International Olympic Committee IOC President Thomas Bach has asked Ukraine to stop threatening to boycott Paris 2024 if athletes from Russia and Belarus will participate in the competition. Ukraine hopes to gain international support by banning athletes from the two countries due to the invasion of Russia. The IOC has said it will provide an alternative for athletes from Russia and Belarus to compete neutrally. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that allowing Russian athletes to participate in the 2024 Olympics will somehow show terrorism is somehow acceptable. And that marks the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I am Faida Ngaga. Good night.